I may have just made the score of a lifetime on this iconic luxury SUV. And as a side note, I also may have an illness.
There's something wrong with you.
Because I did it again. It's another Land Rover, as if I didn't learn my lesson from the last time. But this little gem is hiding some surprises you won't want to miss. The biggest of which may actually make us the biggest profit yet on this channel. So I'm gonna stop talking, we're gonna dive right into it. So what I picked up was this 2017 Land Rover Discovery Sport. Now this Rover was advertised as needing an engine, but it still runs and drives. And as it goes, there's two different stories of what happened to this car, and both are completely different. The first story I heard was that the oil level sensor was bad, and it would always show full, and so it was driven low on oil and caused engine damage. But when I arrived to do the title work, it was a different story. The story was she was driving down the road, it started making noise and lost power, and she shut it off right away. They had it towed to an unknown garage, and that mechanic told them it needed an engine. And when I went to go pick the car up, the first thing I did was check the oil. And the oil was full, and it was dark, so it wasn't just changed. So I fired it up, and it was making no noise, but it was misfiring very badly. So I loaded it up on the trailer, brought it home, and this is where it sits today. Now I've done no diagnostics on the car yet because we're going to do it together. But here's what really made me buy this car. First off, it's a 2017 with 113,000 miles. The second thing is it has a 2.0 EcoBoost Ford engine. And we know that engine really well, don't we? Because that's the same engine that's in the Focus. And it's also the same engine that's in the Ford Escape, it's in the Ford Edge, it's in some Mercuries, etc. This was the last year for the 2-liter EcoBoost before they went to the Ingenium engine from Land Rover. And I'm really glad it's not that engine. This is much cheaper to get parts for and to work on. But the fact that it's misfiring and not making any engine noise gives me some hope that we won't have to change this engine out. This could be as simple as a coil pack or two have failed, all the way up to timing has failed or broken ring lands or something really catastrophic that will require us to change an engine. But the fact that it's making no noise gives me a lot of hope. Let's take a quick look around the car and see what we've got. Now this is an HSE trim, and it's got the nice black wheels to it. It does need tires, I found. Nice white paint. No real dents or dings around, maybe a paint chip or two, but otherwise in excellent condition. And the same follows through on the other side. We're not going to really have a lot of paint correction or PDR or anything really heavy to do to the outside of this car. And on the inside, it absolutely shows low mileage. The seats are in perfect condition. Interior is looking really good, just needs a good cleaning, which we can do. Take a look at this infotainment screen. This is a really nice infotainment screen as well with navigation, telephone, you can see the cameras, or camera in this instance, eco data, some neat stuff in here. The one thing I do think it's missing is CarPlay. I don't think it has that. If it did, that would be amazing. On the cluster, we have 113,368 miles. We have paddle shifters, that's cool. Auto sensing wipers, auto HID headlights, heated steering wheel, our cruise control buttons with lane assist, I believe. Home link buttons on the mirror. And oh, by the way, did I mention it has a panoramic roof? Score. And in the back, we're looking the same way, just needs a little bit of cleaning. Seats are perfect and supple. No dry leather, no cracking, none of that. No headliner falling down. It's really awesome. Let's take a look in the back. It's got the nice rubber mats from Land Rover in here. Does it have a spare tire? Sure does. I think we might be missing the tools and the jack in here. I don't see them. We do have the front tow hook though. Whoa. What is this? That is a genuine Land Rover windshield sunscreen. That's super cool. Moving up into the business end of the car is our nice 2-liter EcoBoost engine. And I'll show you the way the oil was when I picked it up. It's right on the money. And I don't smell fuel or anything like that, just plain used oil. Now the dipstick is also a reason why I don't feel the first story was accurate, because I don't think you checked the oil on this car through the display. And even though this was a vehicle used in the mountains, there's no rust or anything like that on it. So we're not gonna have any repairs like that to make. I think the first thing we need to do is do some diagnostics on this engine and see what's going on. Now my friends at Mucar, who are a huge support to this channel, have sent me yet another scan tool to show you guys. And as an added bonus, I'm gonna give this CS90 away to one of you. Now I'll tell you all the details of what you have to do and how to enter in a minute. But for now, let's take the CS90 and see what's going on with the Land Rover. All right, first thing we're going to do is plug into our diagnostic connector. Now with the CS90 booted up, you see we have a few options here, one of which are maintenance functions. Now you can actually go in here and do resets and adaptations. You can do a tire size adjustment, TPMS reset, gear learning, air suspension matching. This car does not have air suspension, but if your car does, you can use that. ABS bleeding, that's really handy. There's a lot of maintenance functions you can only find on a professional device in here. You can use OBD scanning for scanning older vehicles and scanning basic sensor data, things of that nature. We're going to turn our ignition on. We're going to go into diagnose. We're going to do an auto search. It's going to find our VIN. It found it. We're going to automatically search. Say yes. We're going to do a status report. And this will go through all the systems it can find and look for DTCs. Now you see we have no codes right now, and that is my fault because I thought I was recording when we scanned it, but it wasn't. And I also cleared the DTCs after it. But I can show you what we found because of this handy feature. Let's go back out to the menu. We're going to exit. And if we go to history, you'll see the first scan we did on the Land Rover at 12/17. Now, if we look at this diagnostic history, here's our codes. And look at this code right here. This one's really important. Intake camshaft position timing, over advanced. So we are somehow out of time on this engine, which would explain all of the misfires. So that means we either jump time or we have a camshaft adjuster that is no good. We also have an O2 sensor issue, bank 1, sensor 2. There only is one bank on this because it's a 4-cylinder. So that means it's the post-cat oxygen sensor. And a lot of these other codes for ABS and things like that, I believe because the battery either was drained or it was disconnected. So the Mucar saved the day from me not recording by keeping this report. Very cool. Let's go back out. Did I also mention it's free lifetime updates? So you can click on here and you can go and you see we have an update right there for the BMW software. And if we download it, now you do need to be connected to Wi-Fi to be able to download these, by the way, or use your phone as a hotspot or something along those lines if you're out in the field. But while it's downloading that update, you can go into settings. You can set up an email address in here because you can actually email those reports out to whoever you want, including yourself. You can restore it, do a firmware fix. You can have the photo album accessible, yada, yada. And if you hit the consult button here, you have a coverage list that'll show you all the vehicles that are supported by this device. Fault code library, user manual is right on here, learning. This can actually play back some of the special functions without being connected to a vehicle, so you can actually learn and see how to do those functions. File, here's our different reports. Yes, I did scan a Ford with this before. You can save your reports in here, save them as PDFs. Other, looks like a OBD2 something or other. We did a window recalibration in here before. So this CS90 is nice and compact and durable, and as you can see, it has a lot of professional functions on it. This is perfect for that entry-level mechanic or weekend warrior or hobbyist, or if you want to stop asking the guy at work to bring a scan tool every time you have a check engine light on in your car. Now you can scan it yourself and find out what it is. Now this scan tool retails for $250, and as I mentioned before, I'm giving it away to one of you. Now you can enter to win this by going to theRustedNut.co or clicking that QR code on your screen right now and picking up some quality merchandise from my store. I have everything on there from decals to AirPod cases, phone cases, t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sorts of stuff. And every dollar you spend gets you an entry to win this. Now, if I were you, I'd get on there and take advantage of this because usually I have a low number of people who actually enter for these giveaways. You can also get one free entry to this if you go onto my store, look at the rules for this, and it'll tell you where to go to for a free entry with nothing to buy ever. See the page on my site regarding this CS90 and look at the rules. It'll give you a link of where you can go and enter for this for free. I'm running this giveaway till Sunday, March 15th at midnight. So go on there today, get entered to win, buy some cool merchandise, and you might just be the one I mail this to. But I also want to give a big shout out to Mucar for sponsoring my channel and being a huge supporter of automotive content creators out there. Thanks, Mucar. So now that we have a general idea of why the Land Rover's choking all over itself, let's yank the spark plugs, do a compression check, see the health of the cylinders, and also run a bore scope down through there and see what the cylinder walls look like. All right, first thing we need to do is get this engine cover out of the way. Yeah, this spent some time with the engine cover off and out in the wilderness. I think we need to do some cleanup in here before we start yanking coil packs and spark plugs. Let's start by getting our intake tube off here. Take off this PCV line. There we go. Got a 10 mil to undo. Let's see if we can get our intake boot off. All right, that gives us a little more room to play in here now. Let's go ahead and disconnect our coil packs. 8mm, zip out our coil packs. I think we might need a valve cover gasket. Spark plug tube seals are leaking. Zip out our spark plugs. Ew. Very oily. Let's Let's see if we can get our last one out without a Valdez oil spill. All right, the compression gauge is hooked up to cylinder 1. I'm only one person, so I'm gonna have to do the cranking inside and then we'll look at the gauge. Crank her away. Cylinder 1's almost 140 PSI. Cylinder 2's about 170. There was a good bit of oil in that cylinder though too, so that makes sense why there might be more. Ew, that's no good. Cylinder 3 is not doing well. Cylinder 4 is right around 140. I would say that's probably our normal. But what's going on with cylinder 3? I think it's time we take our borescope camera down there and see what's going on. What do we got here? Doesn't look like anything crashed into the pistons. And look at our cylinder walls here. I see some cross hatching. A little bit of oil up and down the cylinder walls. Can't tell if that's just a little bit of carbon off the top of the piston or what those are. Alright, we can see the valves a little bit. Do we got a bent valve? Maybe not. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. It's really hard to get a good look at these valves. Injector. Okay, I wouldn't say the borescope's definitive on what's going on with cylinder 3 there. I think what I'm going to do is crank this over a few times, try to blow some of the junk out of cylinder 3, do another compression check. If it doesn't come up, we'll do a leak down test and see where we're losing our air at. That'll give us a better idea. Since we have no smoking guns after borescoping the cylinders, we need to move on to a test that's going to pinpoint a little bit more what's going on with this engine. And that's a leak down test. And the way that works is you bring the cylinder in question up to top dead center, all valves will be closed, and you hook air up to the cylinder and see where it's escaping from. Now, if air is escaping into the intake tract, like through the air cleaner or something along those lines, you know you have an intake valve problem. Similarly, if you hear air escaping from your exhaust, you know you have an exhaust valve problem. The worst sound you want to hear is air escaping into the crankcase, which would signify you have a problem with the piston, rings, ringland, etc. But in order to guide us in the right direction of our problem, we need to do this leak down test and see if we can kind of pinpoint where our problem is with cylinder 3. Now, to perform this leak down test, you're going to have to be able to turn your crankshaft, and in order to do that, for me, I have to take the passenger side wheel off and the inner fender trim so I can get to the crank bolt and be able to turn it with a ratchet. So here we are, we got our inner fender well removed. We have our crank bolt right here, easily accessible now. And one thing I want to do is take the belt off. And in order to do that, you have to get to the tensioner. The tensioner is way up there. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing. That's where you're going to put your 1/2-inch drive ratchet to turn that tensioner, let tension off the belt and get it removed. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you that, but we'll try. A little tight getting up there. I might have to put you down. Sorry, fellas. Okay, belt's off. See if we can get her fished out of here. We're on some upper pulleys. Oh yeah. Stuck up here. I certainly cannot get my fingers on it. Go gadget screwdriver. There's that. We're off of there. And whatever's down here, I think we're off of there now. Might be able to pull this up from the bottom now. Uh-oh. Something's still hanging it up. Right now the belt's stuck in the tensioner. And it looks like you might have to remove the tensioner to get the belt out and on. So we're not going to do that right now. All right, I have my 21mm socket on the crank, and I have turned the crank clockwise until I've reached the top of the stroke on piston number 3. Now, I do not know if this is a compression or an exhaust stroke. So the thing I'm going to do right now is put my leak down tester on and see where we have leakage from. And if we have almost all leakage, we know we got something hanging open. All right, let's thread in our hose for our leak down tester. Just till it's snug, you don't need to make this super tight or you'll have a hard time getting it back out. Hook our hose into the tester. Now what you're gonna be looking at is this side is gonna tell us the amount of pressure we're putting into the cylinder. This gauge is gonna tell us how much pressure we keep in the cylinder, which will tell us the amount of loss we have in that cylinder. So if we're putting 100 pounds in and we're showing 80 PSI on this gauge, you know we have 20% leak down, which is right on the cusp, but it is acceptable. But I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot more loss than that with that low of compression in that cylinder. Let's see what we got. Hook our shop air up. All right, I do believe we are at the top of the compression stroke, and as you can tell, we have about 82, 84% leak down in this cylinder. I'm now throwing over 100 pounds into that cylinder. Now what we have to do is determine where we hear the leaks. I don't seem to hear from the dipstick, so that's telling me we're not getting it into the crankcase. Okay, we may have found our smoking gun, and let me show you why. We have a lot of air coming out the breather tube in the intake for the turbo. and that's all part of the PCV system. And if we plug that with our finger and take up the dipstick, did you hear that? Coming out of the dipstick hole. So that may confirm our worst wear of a piston ring failure or a ringland failure, something along those lines. But outside of a combustion chamber crack, we can absolutely 100% save this engine. We can pop that piston out, pop a new one in. We can do all of that in the car because you can easily access the oil pan on this car. But we need to dig a little bit deeper just yet. But since we have the pressure in our valve cover, that's a telltale sign that we have air getting into our crankcase and coming up through. So it appears we need to get a piston, connecting rod, set of rings, bearings, all for cylinder 3, and go from there. But one thing I'm going to do is dive just one step further. I'm going to take the valve cover off. We're going to do our leak down test again and see if we can pinpoint exactly where the air is coming from. All right, we'll start getting some things out of our way. Disconnect this sensor right here. There we go. Disconnect our VVT solenoids. A little bit of fuel pressure in there. I'm going to go ahead and use a ratchet on this bracket because there's some gas around there, and I really don't need any sparks from my electric tools causing a fire or an explosion. That would be bad. All right, can we get this out of the way? Sure can. We definitely need to get our intake tube off the turbo now. Get our breather tube off the back. Then we come back with our 12 millimeter and get this stud out for the engine cover. Okay, I went down below and loosened the clamp, 7 millimeters. And now we should just be able to pull our intake tubing up and off. Just like so. Then we need to undo some hoses. There we go. There we go. Take the foam off of the high pressure fuel pump. Got a harness here to take off. All right, get this line off the valve cover. All right, we should be at the point where we can take the valve cover off now. Let's start getting it loosened up. Might take a little bit of work. Do a little bit of light prying in places where we can. There we go, we're starting to loosen up now. Be very gentle when you're prying on these because they are brittle plastic. That wasn't so bad. Okay, I just wanted to stop here for a second and have a candid, heart-to-heart, one-on-one talk with you. When the manufacturers recommend oil changes anything over 5,000 miles, do not listen to them. They are not in the business of helping you. They're in the business of making money off of you. And the reason I bring that up is because of this garbage right here and what it looks like under the valve cover of this car. Now, as you can see here, Land Rover recommends an oil change every 10,000 miles. Bullshit. If you want to keep your car for a long time and it means something to you, do not listen to that. Do oil changes 5,000 miles, especially if you're using a good quality synthetic like AMSOIL. And I am an AMSOIL dealer, and it's not why I'm saying to do it every 5,000 miles. I'm saying to do it because it's best for the health of your engine. I'm about to show you what 10,000 mile oil changes, maybe even longer, do to an engine. And it's also my speculation on why this Land Rover only made it 113,000 miles before a catastrophic failure. So again, whatever oil you're using, synthetic blend, whatever brand, it doesn't matter. 5,000 mile oil changes. And if you want some of the best oil out there for your vehicle, reach out to me. I'm an AMSOIL dealer. It's some of the best oil out there. There's a link to my AMSOIL page in the description of this video down below and on your screen as well. You can sign up as one of my preferred customers and save up to 25% off of any of their lubrication products. And they don't just offer oil. They have a metal protectant spray, which is really cool, coats some of your metal surfaces with a wax-like substance and keeps them from rusting out. Now, you do have to reapply that after so much time, typically between 1 and 2 years, depending on your environment. But especially here in Pennsylvania, it's the best way to keep the salt from ruining your vehicle. So again, if you want some of the best lubrication products out there, see that link in the description or hit the link on your screen and sign up to be one of my preferred customers today. But anyway, back to my point, I'm about to show you what I found underneath this valve cover. And it's not pretty. It's absolutely disgusting, and I believe completely explains why this had a premature failure. This is gross. This is the staining of 250,000 miles, not 113,000. And this is the direct result of doing oil changes every 10,000 miles or even more. Everything that's in here should just have a light tint to it, not dark brown like this. This is an absolute abomination, and the manufacturers know that this is what happens when you do 10,000 mile oil changes. But you're probably like, Andy, why do they do that to us? Well, let me tell you why. 10,000 mile oil changes are not going to make your engine fail at 50,000 miles. It's going to be over 100,000, and in this case, not much over it. But they expect when a catastrophic failure like this happens, because of this reason, you're just going to go out and buy a new vehicle, and they're going to make even more money. They don't make a ton of money off of replacing an engine, and I would challenge that most dealerships probably won't even do them anymore, unless it's a warranty replacement or something along those lines. But this vehicle's been well out of warranty now for how long? Anyway, let's take a look at some stuff here. Our timing chain seems to be tight, but it does not mean we didn't slip time anyway. Remember, we had that intake timing code. These variable valve timing adjusters on the end of the cams are only held in place by diamond encrusted friction washers. These are not keyed, so there is a potential there for these to slip. And the same with the crankshaft gear too. It is also held with 2 friction washers. And if they fail at all, this will absolutely slip time. Now, before I put this engine at top dead center on cylinder 1 and we see where our cam lobes here and here are pointed to see if we're out of time or how bad we're out of time, we're going to do our leak down test again. Right here's the hole where the dipstick would be, but now we'll be able to feel through all the oil passages here, air coming up from the crankcase, if this is indeed a piston failure, which I do believe it is. So now that we have our valve cover off, we can actually see where the lobes of the cams are, and we can tell if we are on a compression stroke and at top dead center. Now I'm going to turn this crank ever so slightly just to get our lobes back up where they belong. Now with the pressure in the cylinders, I can actually feel the air coming out around. See that sludge? That's really good for your engine. It's also a direct result of waiting 10,000 miles to do oil changes. Sludge. All right, as you can see there, we have 80% leak down on that cylinder. Not good. All right, we're 100 now, and we're about 86%. So we're about 14% leak down on that cylinder, which is really, really acceptable. So knowing what we just saw, and after we know now that the rings on cylinder 3 have left the chat, it was not wrong of that shop to suggest an engine replacement. Most shops won't do a pop and drop piston. Now me, on the other hand, I'm not opposed to it in the interest of keeping the budget low. Now let me know down in the comments what you would do in this situation. Would you do a pop and drop, or would you do a replacement engine? Either way, you're going to have to do brand new timing components, but replacing the engine is going to be a lot more work unless you have a lift in your shop. And the reason being, you can drop the engine and transmission together on its cradle if you have something high enough to lift the car up and pull the engine out from underneath. I do not have that option. So dropping a new piston, rings, connecting rod, bearings on cylinder 3 is easier for me timeline-wise, and I'm absolutely certain it'll solve the problem with this engine. Now cylinders 1, 2, and 4 seem to be acceptable, so I'm not real worried about those. But either way, I have a big decision to make on this project, and I'll be looking at the comments section for your feedback to help decide our path forward here. But for now, we're going to part ways, and I just want to remind you, don't forget to enter to win that Mucar Scan Tool. I'll be doing a random drawing on March 15th to pick a winner from all of the entries, and it just could be you that I send it out to. Also, don't forget to hit that like button down below, subscribe to my channel, and sign up for notifications. Thanks for joining me in this video, and I'll see you next time when we decide what we're doing with this car. Have a great day, everybody.